All right, welcome in on this Thursday now, the college basketball tip-off show powered by WagerTalk.com. A loaded card here today, off and running. About a half a dozen games getting ready to go underway. Plenty more coming tonight here. We're going to break a few of these down for you, get you a couple of best bets here, and see if we can't point you in the right direction, make it a profitable Thursday here as college basketball certainly heating up, as are the three guys today that we'll be talking to, as Bryan Power in the house, Adam Trigger ready to roll, and so is Mr. Rob Vino. Hopefully they are in that order here as we get ready to start with Bryan Power. BP, I'm just going to assume you're on camera right now. So let us start with a game out west for a little bit later. And I think, is it Boise State, Washington State that we're looking at with you here tonight?
It is late night West Coast Degenerate Special in honor of our good friend Drew Martin. And this game is being played in Spokane, by the way, not Pullman. I looked it up on Google Maps for you, Joe. I know right now you're having trouble seeing things, but Spokane, it's just 90 minutes from Pullman, while it would be a lovely and probably scenic 6+ hour drive from Boise. So a slight home court edge to Washington State, but not a true home game for the Cougars. Now, on paper, looks like a pretty even matchup here. Odds makers have Wazoo -2. Cougars 8-2 straight up, 66 in the KenPom ratings, while Boise State 8-3 and 73rd in the KenPom ratings. But you break things down a little bit further, guys, there is one big difference when you look at the respective resumes, and that is the schedule to this point. Boise State has played the 36th toughest schedule, while KenPom has Wazoo having played one of the 20 easiest schedules in the country. The only game prior tonight for the Cougs against a KenPom top 100 team was a 12-point loss at a neutral site versus Mississippi State. And if you can believe it, Wazoo's best win this season is probably Portland State, which really speaks volumes about that schedule. No true road games to this point either for the Cougars. Meanwhile, this will be Boise's they've only played one true road game as well, pardon me. They lost the first by 17 at Clemson early in the year. The Broncos, they've also lost to Vatek and Butler, but they beat VCU and St. Mary's. I don't really want to get involved with the side in this one, Joe. Again, it looks even on paper. Boise's played the harder schedule, but I like the total here. The under has already taken some money. I'm inclined to agree with that. The big key is when these teams aren't playing at home, not in their own gyms, which so far has been mostly neutral court games for these teams, they don't shoot the three well. Boise, 30.1% from three away from home. Washington State, 25.8% in three previous neutral site affairs. But both can defend the arc, especially Wazoo, who's holding teams at 28.4% shooting from three. You look at Boise, they're 24-11 to the under in non-conference games. Wazoo, 15-4 under in the month of December, the last three seasons. How about we go with an over, Joe, in Spokane, Boise, and Wazoo for today's big game breakdown?
Yeah, a lot of these neutral site games here, still tournaments going on, finishing up before the end of the year. And then, of course, everyone getting ready to battle in their own individual conferences. So much to get to here, though. Today, we did have a whole lot of Big East games last night that turned out to be pretty exciting stuff. And we got a couple of games here today. Adam Trigger, who I believe was at one of those pretty cool games at the Garden last night, which was good game. I mean, right down to the end, unless, of course, you were on Baylor. In that case, it absolutely sucked. But tonight, you must have, I know you've got something going on with a very famous team somewhere along the line here that you're going to break up in this 60-some-odd game schedule. Is it Old Dominion? Am I close?
Yeah, that's one of the games I wanted to talk about. So we'll talk about this one first because it goes first. So this one is out in Hawaii. It's part of the Diamond Head Classic at the Stan Sheriff Center in Honolulu, Hawaii. So that's important because neutral court, multi-team event. They're going to be out there for a couple of days. And that's kind of what I want to talk about in regards to Old Dominion. So as far as this game is concerned, like Old Dominion, I got to see them play a couple weeks ago against Northeastern. I've kind of, watched them closely this year. This isn't a team I particularly like, but they are a matchup type team. Like they're where you're going to have a spot. There's going to be spots to go against them, and there's going to be spots to back them based on the other team's personnel. The reason that Old Dominion is sort of a matchup, creates a tough matchup for other teams. They play very small. They're almost all. It's like four guards. They're undersized, but they're quick, and they have depth at those positions, so they can kind of like keep the guards coming in, and they'll play around like one forward, which, to be honest, hasn't really worked that much for them of late. But I do think that this team could potentially improve. Like if you look at like what they have on paper, there's upperclassmen. They're pretty deep. Jeff Jones has been there forever, and they come off of a really tough stretch. So the game I was at Northeastern shot 51 free throws to their 9 free throws. Like, I mean, you want to talk about free throw disparities, which I think is somewhat earned sometimes. Jeff Jones got thrown out of the game because he lost his mind like halfway through the second half. The next game, they had a lead. They end up losing to William and Mary, another tough road game, a game that they led. And then they get blasted by James Madison, which, I've now come to realize is just a really, really good basketball team. And so Old Dominion's kind of had like 12 days now to lick their wounds, go back to the drawing board, figure things out. And this might actually be the matchup that works out for them because TCU is pretty big. Like TCU's coming at you with Charles O'Bannon Jr., Emmanuel Miller, Micah Peavy, and Jacoby Coles, all 6'7", 6'8" guys. Like they play, they're good shot blocking team, good rebounding team, but they're big. And so we could see TCU struggle with the small, quick guards, struggle enough where laying 14.5 might not be that realistic for them. I go back to the fact that it's a multi-team. So an MT 3 days, 4 days, you're going to play 3 games. You don't always get the sort of max effort in the first game when you've got a couple games on deck. So, that could be a possibility for TCU here. They're 8-1. Their only loss is to Clemson, but I think they're a little bit inflated. I didn't think this team was that good in the context of the Big 12 coming into this season. They were a team that I had closer to the bottom of the Big 12. I think losing Lampkin and Mike Miles, and then you kind of replace them with, Jameer Nelson Jr. from Delaware, Anderson comes over from Oklahoma State. Like what they brought in, what they let go out the door, I thought was better than what they got back in the door. So TCU is a team I sort of downgraded coming into this year. So all that being said, Old Dominion coming off 3 straight losses, an early tip. Remember, you're in Hawaii. It's 5 Eastern. So what is that? Make it like a noon tip out there, maybe 11 a.m., something like that. Yep. I don't know if you get an effort from TCU here that translates into a 15-point win. So for that reason, I lean Old Dominion. It wasn't a client play, but I certainly think the points might have some value here. And I'll probably look to either jump in with a spot to back this team this week if I can get the right number, right matchup. But it is a pretty strong lean for me. Old Dominion, I think it's plus 14.5. And this one goes in a couple hours out in Hawaii.
Yeah, it's that's about right. 14.5. The total seems to be getting some love to the over as well. So get ready. I think 5:30 Eastern time is what they're projecting here for the start of that one out in Hawaii. Actually, there's a couple of really good games out there coming up here today. Nevada, I know, is lined up to go out there as well. And of course, Mr. Rob Vino. Well, he's got his eye here back in the mainland, as they say, Vino, in an interesting game coming up today with St. Joe's taking on College of Charleston. I would imagine points are coming in this game. How are you looking at this?
Yeah, I mean, judging by the money, Joe, that total's been pushed from 148 up to 152. Certainly, we had the College of Charleston game on the show Monday, talked about that. It did end up getting over the total with Coastal Carolina. That was a nice one. A lot of points came late from the free throw line, especially where Charleston picked up 25 points in that game. The schedule probably suggests that this is going to be a highly motivated and focused effort from both teams. Neither one of these schools plays for another 8 days. So this is it. before the break, and it's a competitive matchup. So I would expect both to play really, at least with a lot of focus here and intensity. The College of Charleston recent offensive surge. We talked about this the other day. Let's update it a little bit here. Last 6 games, they've scored between 74 and 86 points. The average is 81 and a half. Again, they scored 84 against Coastal Carolina Monday night, and they only hit 24.3% from three. That was their lowest 3-point shooting percentage in a month, and they still found their way to 84. Again, a lot of that was a product of the free throw line towards the end of the game. Like I say, 25 of the 81 came from, or excuse me, of the 84 came from the free throw line. But St. Joe's is tough on both ends of the floor, Joe. I've been impressed with these guys. They're a fairly quick-paced offense that shoots the ball every 16.8 seconds, so they can go quick. They're a top 50 3-point shooting team, and they're 52nd in 2-point shooting, so they do everything really well as far as scoring the basketball is concerned. To top it off, they're top 40 defending both of those. So this is a tough matchup for Charleston, which doesn't have numbers that come anywhere near close to what I just quoted for St. Joe's. I mean, if you were just going to go by numbers solely, you'd be on St. Joe's in this game, despite the home court for Charleston. I think the style that St. Joe's plays defensively really is helpful here. They slow the opposing offenses down. We know Charleston just wants to go up and down. We've talked about it more than once here on the show. St. Joe's makes you use over 18 seconds per possession off the clock. So they're not just going to let Charleston get out, run, shoot, score, get back. Those plenty of opportunities, so to speak, may dwindle somewhat here for Charleston. They need opportunities to pile up their points because they're not a great shooting team. St. Joe's is really good at turning people over. Charleston doesn't really turn it over. So there's a spot right there where you're going to get a little bit of resistance that maybe Charleston doesn't get from other teams. I think their pace does face some resistance here from St. Joe's. Charleston's offensive pace is what I'm talking about. Again, they need opportunities to score their points. Charleston did get Liberty. And when I was going through the schedule, looking for the best teams that these two have played, and they both played some good teams. Charleston beat Liberty in a matchup in Boca Raton. But I think the biggest difference there is that Liberty just goes at the snail's pace offensively. St. Joe's will get you quick. So I think there's a little bit of difference there. I think the better profile comparison would have been the game against Florida Atlantic that Charleston played. And Florida Atlantic at home beat them by 16. Not saying St. Joe's is FAU, but the way they play is more comparable to FAU. St. Joe's, on the other hand, listen, they defeated top 45 teams Villanova and Princeton, shot the ball well in both, and took Kentucky in Lexington to OT. At this point, I'm more impressed with the Hawks and their style of play. I think it's a good fit for this Charleston team to stop that high octane up and down pace. So I'm going to try St. Joe's here +2. This line, guys, has moved a lot in favor of College of Charleston here. St. Joe's actually opened the favorite, -1.5, and now they're the +2 dog. I'm going to take the contrarian side. I like St. Joe's +2.
Yeah, well, if they're hitting three, St. Joe's, good luck. Going to be a lot of fun there watching that game. Should be good. That team loves to chuck it up there. And we've got, 3 big game breakdowns right now in plenty of opportunities here, over 60 games on the card in college basketball. Before we get to best bets, go ahead, a quick reminder, if you could, if you're new here, go ahead and just hit that subscribe button, become part of the family here, as we've got more content for you in college basketball, NBA, bowl games, NFL, NHL, you name it. We have got you covered. Everything you need to know about the top 25, top 50 games here of the day or the week. Just a click away here. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button as well, because we are getting ready for best bets. We'll take it back to the top here with Bryan Power, who dazzled us out west with Washington State and Boise there. That was a great, tremendous breakdown there. So I am hoping that you can absolutely put together another fantastic one for Colgate and Iona, which I know people have been pandering, just waiting for you to come with this. So break it down. Iona Colgate, BP. Where are you going?
Oh, Joe, thank you for those warm words, buddy. That really, just makes me feel good this holiday season. And, we are talking about Colgate, Joe. So a reminder, make sure you brush your teeth 3 times a day. It'll go a long way in life. So here we go. Northeast portion of the United States. Not going to let these guys have a monopoly on that. 2 teams that maybe Trig and 6 other people care about. Colgate and Iona. We'll start with Colgate, a team that's been in the NCAA tournament for the last 5 years, if you're not aware. 6-5 straight up this season. 4 of those 5 losses. You look at them, not a shock. Syracuse, Yale, Arizona, Illinois, all the way from home. They were at Illinois on Sunday. They lost that game by 17. Ironically enough, they were 17-point underdogs. Never led. They were down 17 at the half. So they played the Fighting Illini tough for the last 20 minutes, got within 9 even at one point. They had a bit of a hot run there, made 8 straight shots, but obviously not enough. They only shot 20%, guys, from 3 for the game. That obviously does not help matters. But it was a tough spot for Colgate because they were coming off their biggest win of the year. That was at Vermont as a 3.5-point underdog. They won that one 77-71, and they shot the lights out, Joe, in that game. 53.6% overall and 53.3% from 3. So from an offensive perspective, what do we expect from Colgate tonight? Not as good as the Vermont game. Probably something a little bit better than last time out against Illinois. Now, a team that needs to shoot better for sure is Iona. Last 3 games, 35%, 34%, 27%. They've scored 57, 61, and 58 in those 3 games. 0-3 against the number in that stretch, which is 1 straight up win. And who did it come against? Our old friends at St. Francis, PA, who, as we all know, one of the absolute dirt worst teams in the country. So what do we do here? I'm going to roll the dice, and I'm going to back Iona. And why am I going to do that? Because they're 0-4 against the spread at home this year. That's not inspiring. But here's the thing. Small number, only laying 1.5. They've taken some money, apparently. And they're 26-3 straight up their last 29 at home, Joe. So all we need here is a straight-up win. And I'm going to say they do it after a string of poor shooting performance. I think they turn it around. And here's the final thing that got me to the window on this one. Colgate, you look at their 7 games away from home, 4 true roadies, 3 on a neutral court. They've been held under 60 5 of those 7 games. If you're not scoring 60 points, you're probably not winning, Joe. So give me Iona laying a short number here. Best bet for Thursday on today's show.
All right. Back in Iona against Colgate. Now, let me ask somebody what they think who really understands this Colgate team. Adam Trigger, not that I'm doubting him, but if there's anybody who has spent any time breaking down Colgate, it's you. And I know you did this team's preseason video here. You had a pretty good thumb. Are you in agreement that this is the spot to fade? Not saying that he's wrong. I'm just, what is your thoughts on Colgate?
I agree with BP there. I think it's a good spot for Iona. Colgate's in. They're gonna. It's gonna take some time to get them back to like what they've been the last couple of years. I still think it's a little bit of a work in progress. So I've actually had success playing against Colgate this year, and I think BP's on the right side.
Not enough. It's not exactly what we thought we were going to be getting from that team, but. I'm going to ask Rob Dino his thoughts in a second, BP. If he also agrees Iona, I am immediately running and betting Colgate. I just want you to know that right now. In the meantime, let's talk about it here with
Brush those
Adam
teeth,
Trigger,
Joe.
I'm just saying, if the 3 of you are all agreeing with Iona, we are in big problems here. We got big problems coming up here, but we did, yes, I think there he is. He's back here. Adam Trigger. Vino, the tiebreaker is coming to you, so get ready. In the meantime, though, another great game coming up here tonight that you, no doubt here, Trig, another team. I believe you went to go see Lehi, didn't you already this year? And they're taking on BC coming up here today.
Yeah, so I was actually at Lehi opening night. I saw them play Cornell. It was a great game. They actually led most of the game. They covered the 6.5. They ended up losing the game by 6. And I think that's important. We'll start the handicap there because amazingly enough, Lehi, who I think is a very good team, I think they're actually I think they're actually Colgate's main competition in the Patriot League this year. I think if there's one team that could threaten Colgate in the Patriot League, it's Lehi, and yet they haven't beaten a Division I opponent yet this season. That's actually kind of crazy when you think about it. 9 games in, and a quality team like Lehi still hasn't beaten a D1 opponent, but look at who they've played. Cornell, opening night. Penn State, North Carolina, Monmouth. That's a tough game. That's a game that they played on the road. Providence. The loss to St. Francis, PA is a bad loss, but it was in a weird sandwich spot, kind of like, end of the Thanksgiving break. I don't even know if the kids were back there yet. Tough road game at UMBC, who's been respectable at times. And so those 7 losses are not that bad, all things considered. The thing I like about the big number here, Joe, is Lehi in games that they're double-digit underdogs are 3-0. They've played Penn State, UNC, and Providence, all tough enough to cover. A couple of those, they just got inside the number, but still, covering against those is notable. And I think the reason they're able to sort of hang with these power conference teams is their guards. Keith Higgins, Tyler Whitney-Sidney, 2 veteran guards that really can go toe to toe with like ACC type backcourts. Like the guards on Lehi are gonna match Claude Harris, Zachary, like the guards on BC. That's not where BC's winning this game, Joe. It's BC's gonna win this game in the post through Quentin Post, who's a monster. He's a 7-footer. I don't know that Lehi has anyone to guard him straight up, but Lehi does a pretty good job defending the rim. Their defense isn't bad. And, this is a scenario where I'm almost just willing to roll the dice playing against BC that they've cooled off a little bit. So if you go back to the first week in December, BC had back-to-back-to-back games, played as good as they played as good as they played all season. They absolutely trashed Holy Cross. They blew someone else out by 30. They beat St. John's as a 6-point underdog. Nice win there. I believe that was a road win. And then they had 11 days off. So you have to wonder if, maybe they come out couple weeks off. I'm sure some of the guys got to go home. I know they had finals. They might come out and not be fully focused on Lehi here. I know they've got an ACC game coming up after that. I believe it's Wake Forest at home. So maybe you get a little bit of a lackadaisical effort, and that's not going to get it done against this number, Joe. I think that Lehi is capable enough, especially their guards. Higgins and Whitney-Sidney are 2 of the best guards in the Patriot League. Those 2, they're like 5th-year seniors. Those 2 can play with most backcourts in the country. So you really need like a complete game from Boston College, start to finish, in my opinion, to win this game by 18 or more. And we've seen sort of these weird games the last couple weeks, finals week, the kids aren't going to be there, right? Like it could be a little bit of a flat atmosphere. These teams haven't covered these big numbers that with any regularity. So I think Lehi, there's some things to like about this Lehi team. I also think if you're just betting week to week, you want to jot Lehi down. Maybe it's not tonight. That's the spot to bet them. But like coming up, there's going to be great spots to back Lehi based on the fact that their record is what it is. And they're going to be, valued lower because of it. Lehi is going to be a contender in the Patriot League. They will be Colgate's toughest test in the Patriot League this season. And I think they're going to have, they've got a good ATS run coming up, in my opinion, Joe. So Lehi plus 17 tonight, just missed my client card, but a team I'm looking to play on for sure.
Yeah, and we've seen them, Trig. You're absolutely correct. Over the last week, 2 weeks, these, big brother, little brother, mid-majors versus these, Power 5 schools laying 2 touchdowns, 17 points, 16 points, and they're getting with 3 minutes left, and they're holding on for dear life, trying to get in. It's just, it's not conference play. It's obviously the mid-majors here. It's a game that they certainly look forward to. So opportunities across the board here over the next couple of days with some of these games. Keep an eye out for them. And we've got another one here with you, Rob, taking a look here at a pretty interesting one. I believe you are going to be focusing on Eastern Kentucky at Troy, which is an intriguing game here. I think we all were in agreement the other night. Ole Miss was the side there against Troy on the show. But now they get Eastern Kentucky here at home. Where are we going with this one here, Vino?
Yeah, the other night it worked out kind of to form, Joe. Ole Miss had
Mm.
beaten NC State 72-52. We thought it might be a carbon copy, and they beat Troy 74-53. So it worked out to be pretty much the same game. Here, we're going to go contrarian again here, Joe. Money's come in on Eastern Kentucky. The logic defies me of why you would want to be on Eastern Kentucky here, but we'll go over some reasons why I like Troy. Also, this total, obviously, two quick pace teams bet up from 150.5 all the way to 153. They've played once already this year. EKU wins that game 77-76. Make a couple free throws, put themselves up by 4 with 5 seconds left. Troy comes down, bangs a 3. They lose by 1. In that game, you find that Troy did something. They did what they do well, really well in that contest. But let's just take a step back quick to see what happened 2 nights ago. So I like these quick turnarounds with these teams. Troy on the road faces one of the toughest defenses in the nation in Chris Beard's Mississippi. And I know the overall numbers won't suggest that they're one of the toughest defenses in the nation. But if you narrow it down to the last 6 games they've played, and we broke Ole Miss down the other day, Ole Miss is really playing good defense right now. This is a polar opposite opponent here for Troy. Troy's a team that wants to get up and down, and they want to shoot threes. They're number 51 in the nation. What Ole Miss do? They slowed them down. They forced 25 turnovers, and they held them to 36.2 from the floor. So nothing Troy does well worked against Ole Miss. They only had 47 shot attempts total in that game. Ole Miss didn't even really let them shoot the ball. To put that into some sort of context, when Troy played EKU the first time, they got 69 shots. That's 22 more against this team. If you contrast Eastern Kentucky to Ole Miss, Eastern Kentucky, believe it or not, 362 teams in Division I. They're the 362nd worst three-point defense. They're the worst in the nation. Three-point shooting, they allow 44.7%. Again, let's have some context here. That's 3% worse than the next worst team. Detroit Mercy is 361, and they only give up 41.6. This team gives up 44.7 to a team that shoots it really, really well from beyond the arc. It doesn't bode well. Troy shot it well the first time against Eastern Kentucky. They hit 13 of 28, 46.4. Then I went to the strength of schedule between these two against line teams because, Joe, I'm going to rattle some off here. We did this the other day. It was cute. I'm going to be cute again. They've played some dogs. You'll remember one of your favorites was the University of Fort Lauderdale, which Troy has beaten. They've beaten Reinhardt. They've beaten Southern New Orleans. The other side gets better. The other side has beaten Bethany, which I found out is from West Virginia. They beat West Virginia Tech. And how about this one, Joe, my favorite of all? They beat Wilberforce. Where in God's name is Wilberforce? Adam, help us. I never heard of Wilberforce.
Come on, help us out with Wilberforce.
Well, I know.
I got nothing there. I got nothing on that one.
Yeah, I mean, and the kicker is, Joe, that Eastern Kentucky, for all their offense and pace and whatnot, they've scored over 100 points 3 times this year, and all 3 times were against those 3 teams: Bethany, West Virginia Tech, and Wilberforce. They haven't played one Power 5 team, and they haven't played a team inside Ken Palm's top 150. That being said, they're 1-6 against the spread in those line games against 7 lined opponents. So they're just not good in lined competition. You know, the team they covered against wasn't Troy, because Troy was getting 5.5 in that game. So here we go. Troy's been way more solid at home, 5-1 at home. Let's break it down. Only 3 have been important games. Games where there were lines involved. They're 2-0-1 in those games. They scored 70, 80, and 83 in regulation, so their offense cooks at home. In the end, I'd say this. Troy did the things that they do well against this team the first time around. They were plus 12 in offensive rebounds. They were plus 14 in overall rebounds. And again, they shot over 46% from 3. They also only committed 12 turnovers, which is a problem area for them. So they did well protecting the ball against this particular team. What they didn't do well, Eastern Kentucky's got a 6'7", 240 pivot man named Isaiah Cozart who had a triple-double in that game, 10, 13, and 10 points, blocks, and rebounds. If they slow him down just a bit, Joe, and you move this game to the home court, I don't see why Troy doesn't win. They've got all the advantages here. I'm going to play Troy at this point down to -2.5. They did open 4.5, so we get a better price. Troy -2.5, best bet.
All right, Troy -2 for a best bet. Now, I think we have an update. If we can, let's bring in Johnny Coed here, Brian Power, who has done a little investigating on Wilberforce, and I believe we have a location here, BP. So where and what the hell is Wilberforce?
Well, Wilberforce is a short 3-hour drive from me. It's right by Dayton. Actually, I did not know that until I go. It's in my state, and I had no idea. I had no idea it was in the state of Ohio. But yes, it is just on the outskirts of Dayton, between Columbus. There, you take 71. Get off at 70. There you go. You'll be right there, man. Wilberforce.
So this is in
was
your
not on
backyard.
my short list.
You are now responsible to go to a game at Wilberforce here at some point. Get boots on the ground here, Trig. If you want to fly in, and both of you got to hit Wilberforce on your way to a Dayton game. All right, that's what you guys got to do here and report back. Because hell, if you're gonna go see Lemoyne, you might as well go see Wilberforce. Unbelievable here, Vino. The schools that we are learning. As if there weren't enough here. Wow. Still didn't know Fort Lauderdale had a university and a basketball team is beyond me here. But we do have a best bet from Gold Sheet. Our friends at the Gold Sheet have a best bet here tonight. And, well, heck, they're going to look at that Charleston St. Joe's game like Rob Vino, and they, too, like the over in this matchup here tonight. And I would highly encourage you guys, if you haven't done so already, to head over to goldsheet.com, because when it comes to data and information and game breakdowns just like this, nobody's got better stuff than they do. 6 of Charleston's last 7 games, by the way, have featured at least 70 or more possessions. What does that mean? Well, it means 6 of Charleston's last 7 games have seen 152 or more points. You got 2 teams with a high degree of three-point shooting rates in the country this season. All of that. There's a reason why this thing has gotten steam from 149 up to 152. Probably going to be a very entertaining game, and our friends at the Gold Sheet, well, they like the over. I will go on record and say this here, not because I am sucking up, but I will say our producer, Robert, his alma mater is playing, I believe, their very first home game tonight. And I took as many damn points as Samford wants to give your Texas Southern team there, Robert. I am all over Texas Southern here tonight to get it done against Samford. And Robert, yes, you can buzz the crap out of it. It is the first home game, is it not? That's it. What are we talking? Going to be open up. Robert will not be in attendance because he hates the team, but I will absolutely be backing them there and going there tonight. You guys should absolutely head over to WagerTalk.com and go visit Brian Power, Wilberforce, Rob Vino, Adam Trigger, guys. Nobody has got more best bets and great information on college basketball like these guys. So visit them over at WagerTalk.com. Make sure you come back, though. Big card coming up over the next couple of days. We'll have you covered here on the College Basketball Tip-Off Show. And, of course, if you want to click on that video on your screen right now, you'll get access to all the other top 25, top 50 matchups coming up here over the weekend that you got to see, along with a whole bunch more best bets. Until tomorrow, best of luck with all your plays. We'll see you again soon.